One of the great privileges of a generation is if you're one of the few ones who have opportunity to live in the seam of history. Seam of history means that you live between two great epochs of time. And historians have their own internal discussion how many of these have been in the world, but there haven't been that many. Maybe 7 or 8 times where the world went through a major change in one generation. And we're actually now in one of those seams of history. It's quite remarkable. Sometimes it's described as transition from modernism to postmodernism is one way it's popularly described. But we know that we're no longer in the Enlightenment period that we once knew. What does that mean? What does that mean for us? What that means is that the world that has really sustained our civilization for centuries has been based on a couple things. One, in the inevitability of progress. Every generation in our history in North America has believed that the next generation will be better. If we work hard, we can pass things on and be better. Ronald Reagan won an election by saying, "Were you better off than you were 4 years ago?" You know why he won it? Because people believe deep down they should be better off. And so the inevitability of progress is a huge given in Western civilization. Every generation should progress over the previous one. 2, the belief in human reason and the power of education and reason. And that also ties into truth, belief that truth can be known and discussed, whether you believe it's found empirically or through revelation. You just believe that there is a truth out there. So what happened is at some point we realized that we were in a seam of history where the bedrock of our civilization that we believed would be unchangeable, the progress, the very notion of progress, the very notion of truth, the reliability of reason, our trust in the historical process was somehow or another collapsing. And this was began to be talked about actually as late as, or as early as 1979. There was a French philosopher named Francois Lyotard who spoke about what he called the canopy of truth that was collapsing. But what he meant by that was that we grew up in a time where you discuss what is true, what is false, and you give 5 reasons why I think this is true. But what if the whole concept of truth is under attack? What if people are not even sure there is a truth to be known? You can't give people the 10 reasons why you think something is true if there's no category of truth. What if people are not really sure that historical process can be trusted? What if we really don't know that anything in the past can actually be trusted to be true? That's a crisis of knowledge. It's a crisis of meaning. What if we don't really believe that our generation or the next will be better? In fact, we think we might be worse off than our parents or grandparents. It's a crisis of meaning. It's a crisis of purpose. It's a crisis of direction. The old paradigms of manifest destiny, of everlasting growth and progress and education and wealth and all of these things that were so sure in our culture are today gone. So this generation is emerging that questions revelation. Can there be a reliable revelation from God? If the government speaks, we don't believe it anymore. Again, in the 70s, this was Watergate. This was the crisis of trust and authority. We see Rodney King being beaten up by the police. These are just one after the other. Religious leaders falling because of immorality. We can think of countless examples of religious leaders that were held high esteem in the Roman Catholic sex scandal. There's no end to this. All of that mounts up to a big message to young people today that authority is not to be trusted. There is no reliability in this. So for those of us who believe in revelation and believe that God has a purpose for human history and that God is unfolding these great redemptive truths into the world, this represents a major challenge. How do we reintroduce the gospel to people who have lost faith in faith? How do you talk about truth, people who've lost their faith in truth, the possibility of truth? How do you give people hope and vision for a future, people who have lost their hope for the future, or that there is a future to hope for. This is the great challenge of our day, and I believe that this is a great opportunity. And many of the missional churches and the emerging churches, they may be missing a lot of points, but they are understanding, I think in a great way, that this is the challenge of our day. We have to connect people to a history that is deep, and to mystery, and to the ideas of truth. We've got to find a way to connect with that, and to reintroduce a generation to the gospel in a powerful way. And that's one of the great challenges that we'd like to see us rise to the occasion in these days at Asbury.